This story is about a critically injured human rescued by an alien crew, only for the medics to discover something terrifying pulsing in his spine. Convinced it's a hidden power core, they scramble to contain what they think is unstable technology. Dr. Marcus Bennett groaned as the cool containment slab beneath him shifted and jolted. His vision blurred in and out, pain blooming where fragments of debris had torn into his back. He remembered the shuttle's breech door ripping open, the sensation of weightlessness, then darkness. When he awoke aboard the ship, harsh lights burned overhead. Alien medics, greenish, sinewy beings with four-jointed limbs, hovered around him, eyes wide in panic. Several scrambled for instruments Marcus neither recognized nor cared to understand. "Stabilize power core at spinal nexus," one medic, Neriel, barked in clipped tones. She waved frantically at a technician who was hastily threading cables into his exposed vertebrae. Pain seared through Marcus. He tried to speak, only to clamp his mouth shut, teeth gritted. "They're treating me like a battery," he thought. No human implant, no battery should pulse electricity like the lightning storms on Trinax Prime. He sensed they confused his natural bioelectric signals with alien tech, and Neriel's panic ratcheted higher. The technician, Jovel, adjusted a clamp on Marcus's spine. It glowed faintly in the alien interface. He leaned forward, hand trembling. "Contain the overload before it breaches." Marcus, barely conscious, heard the instruction as though from underwater. His reflexes sparked. Before Jovel could act, Marcus's hand jerked upward, though he didn't will it. The clamp flickered loose, shattered a meter across the room. Jovel flew backward, crashing into stacked diagnostic pads. "Dangerous defense system," Neriel hissed. "Auto discharge." Marcus coughed, blood sputtering. He squeezed his eyes shut. Muted alarms hummed. In the chaos, a second medic, far calmer, began affixing neural scanners to Marcus's temples. She hovered in the corner, silent, her eyes flicking between readings and monitors. Her limbs had delicate pincers that danced across the panels, collecting data. Sensors gleamed red. Potential military-grade biosuit. Neriel jabbed at a screen, dialed containment protocols. "Prepare neural suppression beam. This organism is learning from our instruments." Marcus's ears rang. He sensed laughter, not human laughter but something amused. He felt an ache in his spine that flared with every electrical pulse. Then came drifting consciousness. He tried to speak. "That's just my nervous system," he whispered. His own voice sounded foreign to his ears, rough from blood and sedation. Neriel's head snapped toward him. The room froze. "Explain," she demanded. Her tone was brittle with fear. Marcus attempted to sit up. Pain exploded like a flare. He gasped, eyes wide. The second medic, quieter, leaned in. Her cephalothorax tilted with curiosity. She examined the scanner's reading with its bizarre flux of electrical and biochemical surges that pulsed in harmony. She frowned, exchanged a glance with Neriel, then resumed scanning Marcus's brainwave. He felt dizzy. Someone placed a screen in front of him, symbols he nearly recognized, Greek letters and Latin roots. He tried to track them, failing. But inside, he felt synapses flaring, catching on patterns, mimicking the symbols aimed at his eyes. He muttered again, voice trembling. "I get the language. It's not hard." Behind him, both medics froze. Joval's eyes were wider than crater moons. As Marcus's eyelids drooped, consciousness ebbing, he thought, "They won't believe this. A nervous system and a learning mind shouldn't terrify them this much." But as darkness claimed him, he feared what they might do next. The medbay's artificial lights dimmed automatically to simulate calm. It fooled no one. Neriel stood stiff as a flagpole in a zero-G breeze, her sensory flanges trembling. Joval limped toward the edge of the room, nursing a cracked rib and throwing wary glances at Marcus. The human was unconscious again, or appeared to be. That fact didn't comfort anyone. "Why is the waveform intensifying?" Neriel asked. "He's dreaming, I think," murmured the quiet medic, Roja. "But his cortex activity is too structured for a passive state." "Then what is it?" Roja gestured to the screen. "I believe he's rehearsing speech, in our language." Jovel swore under his breath. "He's a prototype infiltration unit. Has to be." "No," Roja replied evenly. "No synthetic system mimics biological variants at this level. The chemical gradients along his spinal cord, they're responding to trauma. Real pain, not simulated. I ran a double-spectrum scan." Neriel frowned. "Then why does it pulse like a core generator?" Roja tapped the glowing image of Marcus's spinal column. It pulsed gently, blue-white threads of energy crawling across it like a living circuit. "Because the human nervous system is an electrical relay," she said. "It's real, organic, unstable, but intentional." "He's walking around with a lightning net in his spine," Jovel hissed. "How are they not extinct?" Roja looked at Marcus again. "I think we're asking the wrong question." She turned and pulled up a diagram of Marcus's full-body scan. Skeletal fractures along the thoracic spine. 3 cracked ribs. Internal bleeding from a lacerated kidney. The survival metrics should have been bleak, yet his vitals held steady, albeit strained. "He shouldn't be alive," she whispered. "I vote we sedate the spinal column directly," Joval muttered. Cut the signal at the source." "Don't touch the spine," Roja said sharply. Jovel rolled his eyes. "What, you think it'll bite? I think it'll react." Too late. A different technician, younger and eager to impress, stepped forward with a sterile field injector. "I can do a localized dampener, just a few milligrams of neuralaxin into the intervertebral sheath." "No!" Roja shouted. But the injector had already hissed. There was a pause, a humming sound, low and rising. Marcus's back arched with a violent jolt, an involuntary muscular contraction that snapped like a whip down his left side. His arm flew out, fist clenched and connected squarely with the technician's jaw. The poor alien flew sideways into a console, limp. A moment later, Marcus collapsed back onto the slab with a strangled gasp. His eyes fluttered open, bloodshot and unfocused. The medics froze. He blinked at the overhead light, coughed and muttered weakly, "Why does everything hurt?" Commander pause. He blinked, grunt, crack, and muttered weakly, "Why does everything hurt?" Roja stepped forward, cautiously. "You are injured. We attempted a spinal suppression to minimize pain." Marcus groaned. "That explains the surprise punch. You were not conscious." "Yeah, my reflexes didn't get the memo." He tried to sit up, failed, and collapsed again. Sweat glistened on his brow. "Okay, bad idea." Neriel approached now, stiff and wary. "What are you?" "Marcus Bennett, engineer, NASA. You wield weaponized reflexes." He winced. "I wield pain, that's what I wield. If you mean the punch, that wasn't on purpose." "You injured a technician." "You injected my spine." Joval opened his mouth to retort, but Roja held up a hand. She turned back to the monitor and adjusted the neural scanner's parameters. As the signals recalibrated, she frowned. "He's still acquiring syntax," she murmured. Marcus's breathing slowed as the sedation protocols stabilized. "Yeah. It's like picking up vibes and phonemes. Feels like learning Latin through karaoke. That makes no biological sense." Marcus gave her a pained smile. "Neither does surviving atmospheric re-entry with a hole in your abdomen, but hey, here I am." Neriel turned to Roja, voice low. "I'm not convinced he's unarmed." "He's unarmed in the conventional sense, but I think we underestimated what his body is." A day passed. Marcus drifted in and out of sleep, slowly processing alien syllables. internalizing interface logic from observation. When he awoke, he recognized patterns on the med console, could identify symbols for oxygen and pain inhibitors. He murmured to himself, testing pronunciations. "You're decoding language faster than any translator," Roja remarked the next time he awoke. "Are you aware of this?" Marcus squinted at her. "I thought I was hallucinating. Guess it's real. Cool." She showed him the scan. "This is your brain. This section is now engaged in cross-symbolic pattern recognition. That wasn't active before." He stared. "So, I'm hacking your language center by accident?" "Yes." He lay back. "Okay, I'm officially freaked out." Later, Joval returned reluctantly and asked if Marcus could understand speech now. Marcus nodded, slowly. "Bits and pieces. You guys really love compound verbs." "That is accurate," Joval admitted. Another alien, a behavior analyst named Trevik, visited the next morning with a questionnaire and a soft-spoken voice. Marcus endured the test between bouts of pain and nausea. By the end, Trevik reported that the human's linguistic integration was at post-foundational threshold. Roja was baffled. "He shouldn't be this lucid," she whispered. "His injuries are still severe." Indeed, Marcus's fractures had barely begun the healing process. His ribs were bound with some elastic alien resin. His left kidney was stabilized with artificial scaffolding, and he still needed help to sit upright. Every attempt left him gasping. But his mind never slowed. He stared. "So I'm hacking your language center by accident?" "Yes." He lay back. "Okay. I'm officially freaked out." Marcus endured the test between bouts of pain and nausea. By the end, Trevik reported that the human's linguistic integration was at post-foundational threshold. Roja was baffled. "He shouldn't be this lucid," she whispered. "His injuries are still severe." Indeed, Marcus's fractures had barely begun the healing process. His ribs were bound with some elastic alien resin, his left kidney was stabilized with artificial scaffolding, and he still needed help to sit upright. Marcus wrestled and wrestled. His fingers were still bound with sit upright. Every attempt left him gasping, but his mind never slowed. Neurial paced. He learns under pain. Reflexes deploy under duress. His spine conducts electricity. He doesn't fear us, he studies us. Joval's face hardened. "I say we cut the nerve chain, paralyze the learning process." Marcus groaned. "That's not how nerves work." All heads turned. He looked up, pained but lucid. "If you sever my spinal cord, I'm not going to stop learning. I'm just going to stop moving." Silence fell. Roja whispered, "How can he be that coherent?" Marcus exhaled, shallow and slow. "Because humans are weird, and I'm trying really hard not to die while you argue over my spine." No one moved. Then Roja turned back to the scan. "This was never about containment," she said. "We are not observing a weapon. We're observing an organism built for survival under catastrophic conditions." Marcus's eyelids drooped again. "Glad you're catching up." This time, when he slept, no one tried to inject him. They just watched the pulse of light along his spine flicker with eerie rhythm, like a heartbeat made of electricity. Marcus awoke in what he would later call the quiet room. No blinking consoles, no panicked shouting, just pale walls, ambient blue light, and the low hum of filtered air cycling through unseen vents. His back throbbed like someone had installed a blender in his spinal column and set it to low. He grimaced and glanced around. No restraints this time. They'd stopped treating him like an explosive by now, which he appreciated. Sort of. His ribs ached. Badly. Every breath came with a reminder that half his chest was still structurally unsound. But he could move his arms now, slowly, carefully. The fluid line in his forearm delivered measured hydration, probably mixed with some alien analog to saline and glucose. Roja entered the room without ceremony, her tablet flickering faintly. Your vitals are stable. You've lost 6% of your overall mass due to metabolic strain. We've adjusted for human nutrient requirements, but your biochemistry is inefficient. Marcus gave her a strained smile. Thanks for the compliment. It was not a compliment. Good. I'd hate to start getting mixed signals. She sat beside him, legs folded insect style. We've observed increased signal integration across both hemispheres of your brain. You're adapting faster than anticipated. Even for a species evolved to withstand terrestrial extremes, this level of resilience is inconvenient. Nice to be inconvenient, he muttered, eyes half-lidded. Means I still matter. There was a pause. Do you understand the risk you posed when you arrived here? She asked. He didn't reply for a moment. Then, yeah, you thought I was some kind of walking nuke. Not great for first impressions. Your spine lit up like a reactor. There were genuine fears you might discharge. You should see what happens when I drink espresso. Roja didn't blink, but her tone shifted. We are not mocking you, Marcus. I know, but I am. She studied him. That tracks. He sat up an inch. It hurt. What's happening now? Are you going to keep studying me until I become your honorary electrical hazard mascot? We are calibrating our assumptions, Roja said. You are complex. He sighed. So is origami. But no one interrogates paper cranes. Roja stood and tapped a control pad beside his slab. A projection formed above his legs, an overlay of his musculoskeletal system, layered with alien medical annotations. Several bones remained, labeled in red. The ribs, the spine, a femur crack they'd only discovered yesterday. We cannot accelerate your recovery with our normal methods. Your biology treats regenerative prompts like infection. Marcus nodded. Yeah, we have this whole immune system thing. Very moody. We've developed a compatibility algorithm, Roja said. You'll experience phantom sensations as your neural responses adjust, but the pain will remain real, as will the recovery time. How long? By your standards? 3 to 5 weeks before unsupported locomotion. 8 weeks for full skeletal stabilization. He groaned. Figures. You should not have survived atmospheric breach, she said, almost gently. I'm aware. Silence settled between them again. Then a chime echoed through the wall. Roja glanced toward the door. You guys do that? Rarely, but this one insisted. The visitor was an elderly alien with faded skin patterns and deliberate, slow movements. He wore an insignia Marcus hadn't seen before, some kind of diplomatic rank. His name, he learned, was Zevin. I read the logs, Zevin said, after introductions. We thought you were a malfunctioning biomech, something left behind from a war we didn't fight. Understandable, Marcus said. Most of me felt like malfunctioning hardware when I got here. I have questions about your kind. Questions your recovery has, regrettably, delayed. Marcus waved a weak hand. Ask away, I've got time. Not going anywhere for a while. Zevin regarded him closely. Why design a body that fails so easily under strain, but learns so aggressively in trauma? Marcus blinked. That's not design, that's just how we evolved, which implies survival through chaos. You could say that. Zevin frowned. We engineer redundancy. Our species removed pain reflexes in the last evolutionary cycle. You kept yours? It teaches us not to do stupid things, ideally. Roja added, he's been applying your syntax models in his dreams. Zevin looked impressed. That's ambitious. It's also terrifying, Marcus added. I understand your heart rate monitors better than I understand my own tax forms. Roja looked at Zevin. His neural system repurposes trauma into data. If that's common among his species, it's not, Marcus interrupted. I'm just stubborn. You are the first we've met, Zevin said. You set the precedent. He began reviewing their medical logs out of boredom and curiosity. They didn't stop him. If anything, they seemed eager to see what he'd make of it. He understood maybe 30% of the technical notation, but it was enough. Enough to realize their field surgical techniques mirrored early 21st century human robotics. Enough to see where they feared spontaneous neural activation. Enough to spot the weird little assumption they kept making, that the electric signals in his body were inherently dangerous. He told Roja, flatly, "You guys treat electricity like it's venom." She didn't deny it. "In our physiology it is." "Well, to us, it's how thoughts happen. You conduct voltage through your spine to operate your limbs. It's not unreasonable to fear you're carrying a power weapon." He smiled. "It's not a weapon. It's me." One night while he slept, his reflexes fired again. Not violently, just a twitch, but it registered on the ship's alert system. Roja came running, only to find Marcus muttering softly in her language. She leaned close. His eyes fluttered open, bleary. "You were speaking," she said. "I was dreaming of math," he replied hoarsely. Zevin arrived an hour later. "We intercepted a data stream." Marcus blinked. "What kind of data?" "Yours. From your dreams." He stiffened. "You're spying on my brain?" "We're observing," Zevin said carefully. "Not a great distinction." The stream included an accurate model of our emergency med kit. Marcus frowned. "I only saw that once." "You dreamed it. With annotation. In our syntax." The silence in the room turned heavy. "You're not supposed to do that," Zevin said. "I didn't try to." "We know," Marcus swallowed. "You're scared of me again, aren't you?" Roja didn't speak. He tried to stand, but the pain stopped him short. Zevin looked at Roja. "Keep him monitored. No further invasive procedures." Marcus asked. "So what now?" Roja replied. "Now we let you heal. Slowly. And we watch what else your brain decides to understand." Marcus leaned back, weary. "I promise not to build a spaceship in my sleep." Roja didn't smile. Neither did Zevin, but they didn't leave either. And Marcus, despite the dull throb in his spine, felt something strange bubbling beneath the pain, curiosity. Not his own this time, theirs. They weren't afraid anymore. They were intrigued. By the third week, Marcus could walk without assistance, though not far and not quickly. The exo-support brace the aliens had fashioned for his back clicked softly with every step. It was sleek, efficient, and alarmingly comfortable, though it gave him the appearance of someone who moonlighted as a suspension bridge. He took to roaming the quiet corridors near the medbay when allowed, always trailed by Roja or another medic, partly for observation, partly because no one was quite ready to let the walking electrical anomaly loose without a chaperone. Marcus didn't blame them. He was still recovering, still weak, still catching his breath after climbing more than one deck without sitting down. But the dull fire in his spine was fading, slowly, naturally. The brace would stay for weeks yet, and the occasional nerve flare reminded him that no miracle treatment was smoothing his path. Just rest. Just time. One evening, Roja found him in a small observatory chamber, sitting awkwardly on a cushioned bench, watching distant stars crawl past the translucent dome. "I always forget space isn't quiet," he said, breaking the silence. "That vibration underfoot. It's faint, but it's there." Roja settled beside him. "That's the compensator field adjusting velocity. Your body detects it?" "Barely. Human vestibular systems are sensitive. I guess evolution wanted us to get seasick for a reason. You could identify field vibrations through spinal feedback?" Marcus tapped the brace. "I've got a lot of metal in me right now. Feels like being a tuning fork sometimes." Roja regarded him for a long moment. "Your internal data rate has stabilized. That's good, right?" "Yes. Your nervous system is no longer spiking by our standards. We've classified it as a patterned low-voltage biosystem." Marcus blinked. "Did you just give my spine a security clearance?" Well, that's not great, Marcus said with a nervous laugh. You resist in pain, you learn under threat, you weaponize involuntary motion. That was one punch, Marcus said. One. I apologize to that guy. He has nerve bruising. I have bone bruising. Zevin smiled faintly, an odd expression that made his carapace shift slightly. We didn't think you were organic. Now we're not sure how you're alive. Yeah, Marcus muttered. Join the club. They allowed him limited movement the following week. A support rig was affixed beneath his back, cushioning the fractured vertebrae. He stood once, briefly. Every joint screamed. His legs trembled from inactivity. He sat back down before he passed out. 2 days later, he managed 5 steps. Progress was agonizingly slow. It's no longer considered a volatile power source, he chuckled softly. Progress. Then, what about the language stuff? You've achieved 71% integration. You could pass for a very odd child speaker. Perfect. That's always been the dream. She turned her head slightly. Are all humans like you? No, he said quickly. Most are saner and less prone to accidentally translating invasive surgery into full-body reflex arcs. You're underestimating what you've done. I don't think I am, Marcus said. Quiet now. I survived by accident. Everything else is just damage control. They sat in silence for a while. The stars drifted past in slow, lazy arcs. Somewhere beneath them, a dozen corridors away, medics were probably still reviewing the logs of Marcus's dreams. One had included a structural diagram for a brace modification he hadn't seen before. He suspected they'd try building it eventually. Zevin appeared at midday 2 days later, flanked by 2 junior officers. He dismissed them with a nod and stepped into the med bay where Marcus was being scanned. I've reviewed your progress, physically and cognitively. Marcus sat up straighter. And you are anomalous. I get that a lot. You've demonstrated an ability we didn't anticipate. Not just biological resilience, interpretive integration. Interpret what now? You don't merely learn, you synthesize. We tested your responses during sedation. Your cortex processed stimuli while your body was immobile. That should be impossible for a species whose biology relies on physical input for validation. Marcus shrugged. We daydream. It's like trial and error in your head. You reconstructed our emergency schematic from 2 glimpses. I also tried to spell your word for compression bandage and accidentally invented a swear, so let's not get carried away. Zevin appeared at midday 2 days later, flanked by 2 junior officers. He dismissed them with a nod and stepped into the medbay where Marcus was being scanned. I've reviewed your progress, physically and cognitively. Marcus sat up straighter. And? You are anomalous. I get that a lot. You've demonstrated an ability we didn't anticipate. Not just biological resilience, interpretive integration. Interpret what now? You don't merely learn, you synthesize. We tested your responses during sedation. Your cortex processed stimuli while your body was immobile. That should be impossible for a species whose biology relies on physical input for validation. Marcus shrugged. We daydream. It's like trial and error in your head. It is, Zevin said, but you cleared it, with a broken spine. He left after that. Roja stayed, watching Marcus fumble through the datapad's interface. He looked up after several minutes. You realize you're all insane, right? Letting me poke around in your textbooks? You already did it in your sleep. That's not comforting. It is to us, Roja said. We've never had an alien try to understand us before. Not out of curiosity, not like this. He met her gaze. What happens when I go back? If you go back? Marcus flinched. That's not ominous at all. I mean if your body fully recovers, Roja said. If your species retrieves you. He thought about it. Earth felt distant. The shuttle crash had erased the certainty of return. But the idea of going back, of trying to explain any of this, felt abstract, like a story that belonged to someone else. I don't know, he admitted. I don't think anyone's ready to hear, I joined alien med school. Then we will continue, Roja said. Here, at your pace. Over the following weeks, Marcus's gait stabilized. He was allowed into controlled labs with 3 observers trailing him. His feedback on human-compatible scaffolds helped improve brace design. He corrected one diagnostic interface by suggesting the glyph for adhesion was misaligned. It had been flipped vertically, leading to a decade of minor surgical confusion. By the 8th week, he was climbing stairs without assistance. Slowly. Proudly. He still winced every few hours, still slept restlessly, and still needed to stretch carefully before standing. But his spine held. The electrical pulses had evened out. The brace came off during observation intervals, and when his nervous system spiked with pain, he didn't flinch anymore. He annotated 5 chapters of the alien trauma textbook in return for 5 questions of his own. It became a routine. A trade. Mutual fascination. Why didn't you just dissect me? He asked once. You were alive, Roja said. So? Some things are sacred, even when they confuse us. Marcus smiled. That's the nicest way anyone's ever called me confusing. Eventually, one of the alien techs recovered now. Jaw fully mended, approached him with an awkward question. He wanted to understand the difference between a muscle spasm and an attack reflex. Marcus demonstrated using a chart and, at Roja's insistence, not his fist. The medics gave him a nickname, a phonetic translation closest to shock sleeper. He didn't argue. One day, Roja handed him a standard medbay tunic, not the patient variant. He blinked at it. You're releasing me? You're reclassed, she said, as one of us. Marcus slid the tunic on, wincing a little. What does that mean exactly? It means you're responsible for the next alien who terrifies us. He grinned. No pressure. Roja tapped her data slate. We've updated your personnel file. You're now officially categorized as a biomedical observer. Secondary tag, unpredictable, linguistically volatile, prone to back pain. I like to keep people guessing. You've succeeded. He walked out of the medbay that evening, not as a patient, but as something stranger. Not alien, not entirely human either. Just a man who learned to speak through pain and taught aliens that electric signals didn't always mean danger. Sometimes they just meant someone was still alive, still thinking, still trying to understand. And that, Marcus thought as he rounded the corner and startled a junior medic with a cheerful wave, was a pretty good way to be remembered.